Good morning. Giving glory, all glory to God, the Father, to His precious Son, and to the Holy Ghost for this day, in which we know that the Father's arms have been opened for Bill. I am Margaret Prescott. Bill was a great friend of mine. We met in 2018. I love you, family. You truly have my condolences, and I'm here to read the 23rd Psalms. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. Still waters, a place of rest. Still waters, a place that Bill loved. Anything that has water, he loved to be there. He seemed so at peace. The Lord, He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the path of righteousness for His name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for Thou art with me. Thy rod and Thy staff, they comfort me. Even walking among us prior to death, Bill had no fear. He had no fear. He loved the Lord. He loved his family. He truly loved his sister and his daughter. And he had so much to give. He had such a big heart. He always wanted to give to anybody. There was never a stranger that he met. It says, Thou prepare for table, the Lord prepare for table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely, goodness and mercy will follow him, has followed him all the days of his life. And he and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Again, as I stated, we met in 2018. We met at the water department, and we were both going to get our water turned on. I didn't have enough change to put in the meter. And today, things are different. There are some men that'll open the door. There's a lot that won't. He got up and opened the door. And I told him, I said, I got to see if they have any change here so I could put some more change in the meter. And he went in his pocket and got change and walked out to my car and put it in the meter. For a lot of people, that might seem small. But to me, I was saying, thank God for good men. And from that day, of course, we didn't always agree on things because Bill was a driver. He said his daddy told him at a very early age. So I drive very well, but don't get in front of him. And go slower, don't get behind him and be on his bumper because he's going to put on his blinkers to back you off. And once I said to Bill, you don't have road rage. You know I don't have road rage. He said, I don't want to have to jump out the car. I said, please don't do that. But all in all, he had a sense of humor. He was a great man, big guy, big heart, loved, loved, loved. Even when someone did him wrong, he still loved them. He always turned that cheek. But he would get fed up. But he still wouldn't say a thing. He just kept his peace. And it's not people like that in the world today. So I'm going to miss my friend. We didn't see each other every day. We didn't call every day. But when we got together, oh, what a time. And he loved to go out to eat. That was one of his things. My friend, you're in a better place. God loved you best, in which we all have to walk through that gate one day. And I'm praying that I'll see you again. God bless.
Thank you, Miss Margaret, for the scripture and prayer. My name is Jalia Seegers. It didn't feel real at first. Bill Brown was my uncle. This didn't really feel real at first, but coming and seeing him now, it's like, yeah. Yeah, he gave me everything I wanted. Anything I asked him for. I can still hear him now, calling me for something, saying, Lily, you can bring me some Ruffles chips. Jaja, come look at this, showing me something crazy on Facebook. He would call me his princess. He could come get me wherever I was. He called me from school, asked me if I need anything. And anyway, I'll be reading his poem. So, my dear family and friends, don't grieve for me, for I'm now free. I'm following the path God laid out for me. I took his hand when I heard this call. I turned my back and let it fall. Oh, I'm sorry, and left it all. I could not stay another day to laugh, to love, to work, to play. Tasks left undone must stay that way, because I found the peace at the close of the day. If my parting has left a void, then fill it with remembered joy, a friendship shared, a laugh, a kiss. Ah, yes. These things I too will miss. Do not burden with times of sorrow. I wish you the sunshine of tomorrow. My life's been full. I've savored much good friends, good times, and a loved one's touch. Perhaps my time seemed all too brief, but don't lengthen it now with undue grief. Lift up your your heart because I am at peace, and God wanted me now, and He set me free from Bill the Ranger.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Tiffany, Billy's immediate niece. Jolly is my daughter. I am the daughter of Sashalom, his sister. Thanks, everybody, for being here, for tuning in. Billy definitely will be missed. So I'm going to read his obituary. William Lewis Brown Jr. was the third child and second son born to William Sr. and Helen Brown. On November 20th, 1962. On April 22nd, 2021, after a brief illness, he departed this life and transitioned to his final resting place. William, known as Billy or Bill by friends and family, was reared in a Christian home as a child. His family attended St. John's CME Church in Washington, D.C. He was educated by District of Columbia Public School System. He attended Jefferson Junior High and Frank W. Ballou High School, where he was a member of the stage crew, soccer team, something I didn't even know, and the ROTC. Feeling a strong urge to serve his country and having a desire to see the world, Billy enlisted in the United States Army after graduation in 1982. After basic training, he graduated from Ranger School and served as a paratrooper with the 101st Screaming Eagles. 4 years later, he was honorably discharged in 1986. Billy then returned to D.C. and started working contract security. After a period of time, we all know he loved to drive. He got his chauffeur's license and worked as a limousine driver. Eventually, feeling the entrepreneurial spirit, he purchased his own vehicle and started Clearly the Best limo service. Billy cared about his community and was civic-minded. He helped and volunteered at many places, but his dearest to his heart and the most proud he was of his service as a Boy Scout troop leader at St. John's Church. Billy was a Boy Scout growing up himself and was exposed to the great outdoors. So naturally, as an adult, he loved to experience the wonders of nature and especially enjoyed camping, where he could enjoy the stillness and beauty of God's greatest creation. He seemed to be at peace and had a sense of peacefulness when he was out in nature. He loved all animals, but his particular favorite was horses. He had a special connection and enjoyed riding, which he did as often as he could. Billy often referred to himself as a black cowboy, Wild Bill, if you will, and it was not uncommon to see him sporting his trusty cowboy hat. He was serious about it, y'all. A lifelong Washingtonian, in 2018 he relocated to South Carolina so he could be closer to his daughter Natalia, who has his whole heart and rejuvenated his spirit, and his sister Sashalom, with whom he shared a wonderful bond. They were more like friends than siblings. He was a kind man who opened his heart to many over the years, but when he was allowed fatherhood, he experienced the joys and wonders of life in a whole new way. His love for family was unequaled, and one of the greatest joys of his life was spending time with not only his daughter, but all the members of his extended family. Now, Billy was no angel, We know this. But he really had a heart for people because he never, like Miss Margaret said, met a stranger. For him, one thing always remained true: life is too short to hold grudges. So he was always quick to offer forgiveness. Today, we honor and celebrate the life of this proud veteran, brother, father, and friend. Billy was preceded in death by his parents, William Sr. and Helen Brown, his brothers, Jeffrey and Vincent Brown, his sister, Donna Brown Herbert, and nephew, Jeffrey Brown Jr. He leaves to cherish in his memory his daughter, Natalia, sister, Sasha Lone, also known as Brenda, nieces, Ebony Smith, myself, Tiffany Johnson, and Donisha Brown, his nephews, Derek Brown, Franklin Herbert Jr., and Stephon Brown, his lifelong friend, Rodney Dunbar, and a host of cousins and extended relatives, and a multitude of friends. Billy was definitely my closest uncle. He was there for most of the milestones in my life. He was there when I had my first child. He slept through a good bit of the labor, but he was there. He was working at FEMA, so he was working a lot, but he was there. He was there for my first housewarming. He was there for my wedding day. He even provided the music so I could walk the aisle. And he was my number one client, my first client when I started cutting hair, being a barber. And he always hyped me up so much. And he would bring people to me, refer people to me. And he was just very loyal and very dedicated. He will definitely be missed. I don't think there is any other father figure, uncle, that could take his place. So, long live Bill Brown. Spirit will definitely live on. He will have a lot of people continuing to remember him and talk about him and cherish the things that he's done with or for them. So sad to see you go, but I know one day we'll see again. Hug all the family for us. Tell them we love them. And we'll see them all at one point. Hopefully later than sooner, but at one point. Thank you.
I say to the family to be at ease. Everything is okay in spite of what it looks like. Bill Brown. His love for his daughter, he always talked about Natalia. Saying how he has to be there to show her and to be mindful of those little boys. And that he just loved his daughter. He spoke of the times of his mom. Nobody could rub her feet like he could. He said, Bill Brown, come over here and rub my feet, my legs. Nobody can do it like you. And oh, Bill's man, yeah, and I'll go over there and not just do my mom's leg, and she just feels so good. He spoke of his father, how he was just like his father. And as Miss Margaret said, he said his father showed him how to drive and how to be mindful of the road and gave him different scenarios. And yes, if you tailgated him, he was gonna put those flashers on. And he's blaming everybody else for how they drive and just mad. And then he spoke of his love of his sister Sa. He loved you to his core. And even in the hospital, he told me, I just love my sister. We didn't know that it was going to turn out like this, but it's okay. He spoke of the different dimensions that he had saw. He couldn't describe the different colors, but he said, oh, it was so beautiful. But he did say, regardless what happens, he is at peace, and he's okay. So I say to the family, hold your head up, everything's okay.
Giving thanks. Thank everybody who is here in the physical, and giving thanks to all those that are watching us virtually, and those that are filling in what appears to be the empty seats, our ancestors who are present here today. I just wanted to, this is a time of acknowledgement, and I want to share some of the messages that some of Bill's friends sent on his behalf to be shared with us today. The sister that just spoke, she didn't introduce herself, but her name is Renee Wiggum. She's one of my good, beautiful sisters, but she was also a good sister to my brother. And I loved and enjoyed their friendship and the fact that they were friends. I'm so full up right now. And wow, so what I've learned through all of this that we're dealing with right now is that my brother was so loved. He was so loved. And that made me feel so good because I loved him so much too. And I talked to so many of his friends through this process, friends that I never even knew existed, that knew me through him. So I'm going to share Miss Tish, Miss Izzy Tish, and she and Bill were Facebook friends, and they talked regularly as if they just lived in the same space and time. And Miss Tish actually was one of the few people that my brother wanted to talk to almost every single day. So Miss Tish, she says, it's been a long days and nights for me since you left this world because I feel empty without you. I think of you every day. I miss you very much. I can't explain how much, but it is immense. You came in my life as an angel in human form. And even if you're not physically here, I know you are the angel that has been watching over me from heaven. You assured me that you are in a good place. And the only peaceful, good places would be in heaven. That makes me happy because you're in the right hands with Jesus. I miss every moment and everything about you. You were a whole positive vibe to me in every situation. And you were so overprotective. I love that. You blessed. You didn't want anyone to hurt me or cross me in the wrong way. You was ready to handle them, she says. You was my prayer partner, and you always were grateful how God had blessed you, and that made me get more attracted to you. You was always here for me in every way, and you didn't hesitate to come through for me about anything. Thank you so much. I have a lot to say because you impacted my life in a great level, and I will never forget each and every one of them. I know your spirit is always around me. I feel it all the time, and I will always hold it so close, sweetie. She always called him sweetie every time I talked to her on the phone. She was like, yes. She said, sweetie, how I wish you didn't leave so soon, so I can get to share more memories with you. But I'm relieved because I know you're in a better place, Bill. I love you, and what my heart will always do is to love you. May you rest in heaven where everlasting peace exists. And that was from Miss Tish. I had also gotten a message from a Miss Tasha Hall. I believe, pray I'm saying it right, Tasha Hall. And she just sends her undying love and admiration for my brother, and letting us know that he will be so truly missed in her life. I also got a message from Ralph Green, who was one of our childhood friends who grew up in our neighborhood in D.C., and we all kind of grew up together, and he wanted me to remind Bill that, yes, and I taught you how to swim. And he also reminded me to make certain that we do the Lord's Prayer, which we will before the service is over. I wanted to, I really wanted this to be a celebration of my brother's life, because he was that kind of guy. He was that guy who was ready to have fun and to celebrate and to embrace the goodness that life had to offer. Oh, forgive my phone, I'm so sorry. I wanted to talk about some of the things, Bill's favorite things. I'm gonna put these glasses on because I'm older than him now, y'all. He was 58. And I'm just so thankful. He promised me last year when he had his surgery that he was not going to leave before me. And he just had some wonderful experiences on his road to heaven. And I guess he couldn't hang out here with us any longer. Bill was my closest sibling because we were closest in age. Our oldest brother, Jeffrey, was 6 years older. So he kind of hung out with our older cousins, Big Joyce and Butchie and Gary and, oh, please somebody take this. So when Bill came along, it was him and I. He was my little rug rat. And I remember when I was 3 years old, our grandparents gave me a tricycle. And then, for a period of time, I think with my mom, just dealing with so much, and I ended up going to stay with my grandparents for a significant period of time, and I left my tricycle in D.C. with my family. And so when I came back, he thought that tricycle was his. And to this very day, he gonna tell you, no, that was my tricycle. I'm like, Grandma, they bought that for me. But he swore that was his tricycle, and we do have a picture together where I'm riding, and he's riding on my back on the tricycle. That boy, he was so much. We used to fight a lot, as siblings do. Very much like my own grandbabies, Zion and Jalea, when they used to always be wrestling and tussling around. Me and Bill, we did the same thing. Until one day, he got tired, I guess, of me beating him up. And he beat me back. He taught me that day that it is not cool for girls to hit boys. And that's what I try to instill in my granddaughter. I said, look, Zion is only letting you hit on him because he loves you. I said, you need to stop hitting on that boy because you're going to realize one day you can't hit boys, you can't hit men. And I would not feel good if some man had hit you back. We had problems. We always used to have this little ritual in our childlike household, you know, amongst the children. At one time, when our Uncle Mike and Aunt Maggie lived with us, there were actually 10 children in the house and 4 adults. And when the children got together, we had this little thing. I don't even know how it got started. I think we was feeling ritzy or something, and we used to have this little thing where we have our little cups of Kool-Aid, and we would say, taste to the pew, like we were some rich folks. And we just did that, and that was just something that stuck with us. And every now and again, me and Bill would look at each other and go, taste to the pew. In high school, he was on the drill team. We both actually were on the drill team. I was on the girls' drill team, and he was on the boys' drill team. And the boys' drill team was like so awesome. They was winning the competitions every year. Ballou Senior High School male drill team was like the everything in D.C. And I was so proud that my brother was on that team. I was so proud of him. I just loved them, and I looked up to those guys that was on that team, and I was just so in awe at their discipline, at their order, and their respect for that path and that journey. And I think him being in the ROTC was one of the things that made him want to decide to go into the military and serve his country in the manner in which he did. Bill loved camping. He wanted to always go camping. He wanted everybody to go camping with him. I think Stephanie, our cousin, was one of the only ones that would actually say, yes, Bill Brown, let's go. Pack up everything and just get on the road and go out in the woods and set up the tent and start a fire and listen to the crickets and fight off the bugs. And that was the part, the bugs, that nobody else wanted to deal with. Ain't nobody else want to go camping with him. But Stephanie, she was there. And I'm so glad, I'm so thankful for the times that they spent together. Bill Brown loved popping popcorn. Oh God, our dad was that way too. My father, that was one of the wonderful pastimes of our childhood. My dad, he would pop popcorn on the stove and put it in a big old paper bag, and we'd sit and watch movies and eat popcorn together. And Bill Brown Jr. was the same way. He was the same person. And I think I was a popcorn addict for a long time while we was living together, because we was popcorn eating almost every night. Another thing that he was really great at was calling up everybody that was within 10 miles of him and saying, come on, y'all, let's go to the movies, because he loved the movies. And he just loved being around his friends and his family. Anybody who knew him knew that he loved his Jeep. Lord, if we could stuff that Jeep in the earth with him today, he would be so happy. He would be totally smiling in a whole other kind of way. He also loved his limousine service, and he was clearly the best. He really was. My brother was outstandingly good at everything that he did in so many ways. Flaws and all, flaws and all. Oh, please, somebody take this. His limousine service, he was known for literally making everyone who rode in his limousine feel like a rock star. He actually had a red carpet that he would lay out for you when he come to pick you up, and he would have rose petals laying out on the red carpet. And he would have his limousine stocked with chocolate-covered strawberries and a bottle of like some apple cider, something in a wine bottle. He didn't drink, he didn't smoke, he never did no drugs and nothing like that, and he was not an advocate of any of those things. But he definitely wanted to create the vibration and the energy of royalty when you got into his vehicle, and he was so good at it. He loved expensive things. And he loved talking about how much money he spent on all of his expensive stuff. Me, I'm the total opposite. I'm looking at him like, boy, are you crazy? Spending $5,000 on a car stereo? Stop it. Just get away from me. But he loved that stuff, and it irked the soul out of my body. When he would talk about it, I'd just be like, well, please stop. All this waste of money. He loved making people laugh. I remember when I lived with him for a period when he was living in D.C., when my daughter was pregnant. And it just seemed like that was a daily ritual every evening when he got in from work. He would be in some different character, acting up something, clowning real hard, and just making us laugh till our sides hurt. And actually, our whole family was pretty funny. You know, I think, that's expression that laughter is the best medicine. I think the people who come from the most dysfunctional homes are the funniest people on the planet, in all honesty. And we grew up in some, in some troubled situations that affected our lives as adults, but we kept striving to just overcome. Parents are not perfect. Humans, we are not perfect. We all have flaws and we all make mistakes. And because we are all this one entity, we all affect each other's lives. The area that worried me most about my brother was his relationships with women. All of the women. He was so fine now. If I wasn't his sister, I might have been one of them women. He was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful young man. All of my brothers were. All of my parents' children were. But there was his inability to just be still and be solid with one woman. That just always concerned me, especially during the 80s, especially when all this AIDS stuff was so loud and so prevalent in our lives. He would always call me, I want you to meet my friend. I want you to meet my friend. I'm like, boy, how many friends do you have? I'm like, I'm tired of meeting friends. I want to meet the fiance. I want to meet the woman you want to marry. And one time he called me with somebody on the phone, and I did not know she was on the phone, and I said these things, and I felt so horrible. I'm like, Bill Brown, please, just meet somebody good. Settle down. Get married. And he did marry for a very, very brief time when he was in the military, and it was such a heartbreaking period for me because he was struggling in this marriage. I think he just impulsively got married, and we never even met her. I'd never met her. Her name was Carolyn, and he loved her, and that's all we knew. And we are the type of family that we love who you love. And so he married this sister, and then it seemed like shortly thereafter, he was calling me almost every night in tears, sometimes crying and upset about the things that were not going well and not going right. And he was in the military, and he already had that stress on him, and on top of that, having a troubled marriage. And I was so thankful when that period in his life had passed. And I just kind of, in my own spirit, just put it out of my soul and put it out of my mind, almost as if it didn't happen. But none of our experiences can be disqualified. And I pray that experience just helped him to be a better man. He was always good to the women in his life, always. He gave his last. He gave his everything to the women in his life, all of the women. Oh, God. This boy right here. Oh, my goodness. Oh. what I love most about my brother, what I love absolutely most about my brother was his love for his daughter, Natalia. This man did everything within his power to give everything that he had to give to this little girl. He was a father to her that we never had. To just watch that. To just watch that and see. I'm like, where did you learn this stuff? Because we never got any of this stuff that you're giving to her. I'm just so thankful, so happy that his love overruled his bad programming. Because I think that the reason why he was never able to really settle into a solid relationship with any woman was because of the programming of our father, God rest his soul. And our parents are in the midst today. They are here. Our grandparents are here. All of our aunties that have transitioned are here. Uncle Mike, Uncle Buddy, Uncle Frank, Aunt Jean, Aunt Frances, Aunt Sonia, Aunt Blanchie, my mom's twin sister. They're all here. They are here with us today. And it's said that we are to never speak ill against the dead. Because, you know, they're so much more powerful when they're on the other side. When we're here, we're limited to what this three-dimensional vessel can do for us. And we're constricted by the oppressive hands of man. But when we return to the spirit realm, we are in the fullness of our glory and our power and the empowerment that God has instilled within us. So they are here. They are here. Our siblings, Jeffrey, Lorenz Brown, he is here. Vincent Emilio Brown, he is here. Donna Jean Brown Herbert, she is here. And I could never speak an untruth in their presence. I love my mom and I love my dad. But the pain that they lived in caused them to make choices that affected the way their children came up. And you know, when you're in the midst of the drama of your life, we're not always thinking about how this is affecting my children. Bill Brown, I prayed to find a man like him in my life. I prayed to find a man like him in my life. If he thought you needed it, he's going to get it for you. If he knows that you need it, he's going to do it for you. If it's something that you want, he's going to figure out a way for you to have it. The problem, the one issue that I had with my brother, and we talked about this in the last days of his life. I said, Bill Brown, you know, you don't say the things that you need to say all the time because you don't want to hurt people's feelings and you don't want to disturb other people's peace. But when you don't communicate in the fullness, sometimes you make people think that it's this when it's really that. And this is what you have to repair in your life. And he just sat there looking like a 2-year-old in that hospital room with his head hanging down, said, yeah, you're right. I guess I just never really learned how to express myself. My mom was that way as well. She was the one who would run throughout the family and do this for that one and do this for the other and take this one here and go there with this one. neglecting her own household, loving the households of her loved ones. So many times we were left home alone with no food in our refrigerator, nobody supervising our existence on those days because she was out loving others in the family. But then she would come home and she would fuss because she a lot of times did what she did begrudgingly. And I watched my mom turn into just a bitter little old lady with a big heart who was so frustrated because she gave so much to so many and very few gave back to her in the same magnitude. And I watched my brother do the same thing. He just give and give and give and give. And then when the lack of reciprocation shows up, he just sucked it up and kept smiling and kept going. But then he would come to me and complain, or he would go to his friends and complain. And I'm like, Bill, you just gotta say what you need to say to people directly so they understand where you're coming from, so you can help them to correct their behaviors. We need this. We have to be open and honest with one another. And he would say from time to time about me, my sister, she mean. I'm like, I'm mean? Oh, Lord. I sat at the birthday table and he told me, oh, just go ahead and say it, you mean. I'm like, wow, I'm mean. I'm trying to go back into my memory code and remember, when have I been mean to you, little brother? I've always been your protective shield, and it hurt my feelings. But I understood what he meant when he said it. What he meant was that I'm going to tell you the truth, even if it don't feel good, because I want you to tell me the truth too. I don't want to be out here in bad behavior and you just suck it up and let me be in bad behavior and say nothing, because my behavior cannot be corrected if I'm not told. And if you love me, then I'm going to feel the love in what you're saying. But he didn't want to hurt nobody's feelings. But he was holding that bag of pain and that bag of hurt, and he would leash it out on different friends of his that he could talk to, and so that it couldn't, at least he could be free of those feelings in those moments. And so on April the 11th, I got a phone call from one of the ladies in his life. She tells me if you'll go and check on Bill because he's not well, he's not feeling well. And I was like, oh, okay. So I fly in town and I make his place my first stop, and I say, Bill, what's the matter? He's laying in the bed and he's naked and he's wrapped up in a blanket and he's throwing up in a glass and he's uncontrollable vomiting and uncontrollable bowels. And I'm like, Bill, what's going on? I said, what did you eat? I said, it's looking like a food poisoning situation to me. And he said, I don't know. I just don't know. And he said, I've been like this since Thursday, and here it is Monday. And I'm like, hey, I'm just not hearing about this. What's going on? So we get him to the hospital, and the hospital won't let us come in. When we finally get in, the doctors tell us that he's had a heart attack. I'm like, a heart attack? He wasn't clutching his heart. He wasn't saying he was having any pains in his chest. He didn't say his arm was numb. I'm like, it wasn't making a lot of sense to me, but I'm not a doctor, so I'm like, okay, he had a heart attack. So they said they put a stent in his heart and that he was going to be okay. And then about a couple days later, they tell me that the heart attack is blowing out his kidneys and they want to put him on temporary dialysis. And I'm like, oh God, no. Everybody that I've ever known of that was on a dialysis didn't hang around too much longer. The doctors assured me this is temporary. We just need his blood to stay clean, and this is just a way to do that. They're trying to figure out why he's still vomiting. They're confused. I'm confused. I think on the third day of my brother being in the hospital, he says to me, he says, a person should never get this close to death without going all the way. And I was like, in those moments, I'm just like, oh God, please don't let my brother leave me. He promised me last year he was not going to leave before me, please. He also expressed to me some concerns that he had, that maybe something had been put into his system. And he was concerned, and he told me who he felt that it was. And I talked to the doctors, and they said they had checked his blood, and they were not seeing anything out of the ordinary. But they said that if there was something specific, I would have to know what it was in order for them to check to see if there was anything in his blood that shouldn't have been there. But all I know is if there's any hand outside of the hand of God that has caused my brother to leave here before his time, God will deal with that. God is a just God. And we are not to meddle in things that are not our business. So I will leave it at that. While my brother was on his, what we thought was his sick bed, and he was getting better, I think around the 4th or 5th day, because he was in there for a total of 10 days. He was getting better. And we were talking about getting him out of the hospital on Friday. He was sitting up. He was talking better. His communication was better. He was able to check his phone without me having to help him. He was getting out of the bed. He was sitting in the chair. He started complaining again, so that made me feel a lot better. He was talking about how the food was so horrible. He wanted me to bring him something from Burger King. He said, bring me a Impossible Whopper from Burger King and tell him to make it sloppy. He said he wanted me and Natalia to make him some chili. We made him chili. And, oh God, on the Thursday, when we get to the hospital, there was a new nurse, new person at the reception desk, and we had been going up every day in the morning and every afternoon when I got off from work, and we weren't having any problems. But this one particular lady named Glenda, she just was not going to let Natalia go up. And I was so trying not to be angry about it. She held us down there for so long. It's trying to exercise her authority. And it's so sad when we are feeling so powerless in our lives that we would then want to have power over other people's lives. So when I finally said, okay, Natalia, you sit down here and I'll go up and take Dad his food, I got into the elevator and I hear the announcement that said there's an emergency in the Moultrie suite. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's where Bill is. And I'm like, I didn't think for a second it was Bill because we're going home tomorrow. He's doing good. And so I get up there and I see all these doctors and people hanging around at the end of the hallway near his room. And I'm thinking for sure that's the person next door to him. This is not Bill. And the closer I get, the more I realize, oh gosh, this is Bill. What's going on? So one of the nurses, she came to me and she said, are you Mr. Brown's sister? I'm like, yes, what's happening? The nurse went in and he was unresponsive. I'm like, okay, so what's happening now? The doctors are working on him. I'm like, working on him? What does that mean? Then they couldn't find a pulse, and they're trying to jumpstart his heart. And then a few moments later, thank God, his heart started beating again. And then they transported him to the medical ICU. And then we went downstairs and got Natalia from Glenda the Good Witch. That's what I had to call her that day. And I do forgive her because she just was trying to do her job, but she was overdoing it, and it was so horrible. So we went to the medical ICU with the doctors and my brother on the gurney, and they tell me to go on in. He's awake, and I'll go in, and I see him, and he's got this tube going down his mouth, and he's just there, and he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and I'm looking so deeply into his eyes. And I just said, Bill, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here, Bill. I said, whatever's going on, Bill, it's okay. Just relax. I said, we had already talked. He was not afraid. He told the doctors when he could he was not going to do anything to go against his body. They wanted to do all these different things to him. He was like, no, I'm not going to do anything that's going to go against my body. So when I was looking at him in his face, I could see him, and I saw him see me, and he knew that I was there, and I just told him that I loved him. I said, I love you. I said, look for Mommy and Daddy. Just look for Mommy and Daddy. Look for Donna and Vince and Jeff. They're waiting for you. They're waiting for you, and it's okay. And then the doctors told me to leave because they were losing him. And me and Natalia would just sit out in the hallway. We prayed and we cried, and we just try to console each other. And then the doctors, they came back to me, and they said this is the third time that his heart has gone out, and we just want you to know that even if you try to hold on to him, he's not going to be the same person that you knew him to be. What would he want you to do in a case like this? And I just said, I don't want to make these decisions. I've never been in this position in my life before. I've never done any of this before. Bill was always the one who did these things. He was there when Daddy died. He was there when Donna died. He was there when Vince died. He was there. Oh, God. I have ushered in 5 lives onto this plane of existence in my almost 60 years of being here. But never have I had the honor, the opportunity to be there when a soul has left and left his last breath amongst us. And I feel so honored and so thankful. Through this experience, my brother has taught me to be kinder, to be more patient, to be more loving, to be more giving, and to know to always look at the bright side of everything in life. That was his spirit. No matter what it was, he was always going to find a way to look at the bright side. What is our time like? Because I don't want to overtalk. 11:02. Oh, very good. Very good. I'm going to share. If there's anyone else here who would like to share, Miss Anderson, Natalia's grandmama, I don't know if you wanted to speak a moment and share your experiences with my brother. And I'm just so thankful, y'all. I'm so honored to say that Bill Brown was my brother. And where he was an angel, where he was an angel in my life in so many ways, and I was an angel to him in his health and his well-being. And now he's a full-out angel with all his wings in place. And I'm so thankful. I'm going to let Miss Anderson come up and share for a bit.
My name is Mary Anderson, and I am Natalia's grandmother. I love Bill like he was my own son. He spent so much time at my house. He was just like an angel, like you said. He loved Natalia with all his heart. I live on a small farm, and he would come out and he would see the little baby goats, and he wanted to bring a horse, but we didn't have enough property for his horse. But he would come on Sunday afternoon. He'd send the food in first, and he would come in. He slept many days on my couch, just sitting there watching TV and playing with the dogs, because I had a little house dog, and he just loved the little house dog. Bill was a wonderful person. I talked to him, I called him, I said, baby, I just had you on my mind, and I wanted to see how you was doing. The Sunday before he went into the hospital, he was on my mind all day long, and I called him. And he said, oh, Miss Anderson, you woke me up. He had fallen asleep in his car because he wasn't feeling well. And he said, thank you so much for waking me up. I said, well, go in the house, get you something to drink and get you some rest. He said, yes, ma'am, I will. He said, when you coming to see me? I said, I'll be there soon, because I had promised him I would come in and help him do a little things around the house because he had just gotten through with another surgery. And I prayed so much for that young man because he was so loving and so sweet, so loving and so sweet. I would love to see him come. When he come to the yard, he didn't even have to call to let me know he was coming. And he would come, and Natalia would come, and we'd be outside and in the house, and he'd bring us movies and things like that for us to look at. We're going to miss you, Bill, very much, very, very much. I love you. I always said, okay, baby, I'll talk to you later. I love you. And he said, I love you too, Miss Anderson. I said, you will always be close to my heart. I said, I thank you so much for everything you've done for us. And he did a lot. He cared for his baby. He cared for my other grandchildren too, because when Natalia was born, she was the tiny one of the family, and there were 3 more above her that he took care of. He took care of those babies, and I appreciate what he did. He moved them, he took them here, he took them there, he carried them all the way to his home to meet your mother, and stayed with their mother for a week, and they loved him. My grandson right now, Javante, he said, Mama, I really do love Bill. He is really sweet. And as a matter of fact, if I didn't know any better, I thought Javante would have been Bill's son because they look alike. They look alike. But I want to thank your family too, baby. You have been a sweetheart in my life too, and I appreciate you. And all I want to say is you'll never forget Bill. He's one of those items that you want to hold on to. And you'll always hold on to Bill. I miss him very, very much. And he and I were at a rodeo in my dreams this week. And I watched him look down at me off his horse. And I felt really good about that. So, Bill, I hope you got a stable full of those beautiful horses that you want, because God said what you will have in paradise is what you love. So you're in paradise now, Bill, and I love you. Thank you so much for being here in my life. Thank you so much.
Bless that. I wanted to take a moment to share with you some of Bill's friends, mostly his lady friends, that I talked to over the course of all of this. I had the most awesomest conversations with all of them. I got a whole new tribe of sisters because of my brother. First off, I want to give the blessings to Miss Margaret, who blessed us with the scripture this morning. She has been a true, beautiful soul sister ever since she found out about my brother. And she's been at my side, texting me, calling me, offering any kind of assistance that I might need, and just sharing about their friendship. And I'm just so thankful for you. There were so many ladies that I talked to, because what I did was, you just never know what all's going on in the intimate circles of a person's life until these cell phones happen, huh? Lord. So I went through all of his messages that was most recent, people that he was most recently communicating with, to let them know what was going on. And I talked to a sister named Rita, and we had an awesome conversation. And she just expressed her sincerest condolences. And I talked to another lady named Danita Taylor, and she was just everybody, just awesome energy. They had nothing but the highest praise for my brother as their friend. And another sister named Tabitha, she was his travel agent. And she had just booked some travel for him, I think for when he went to D.C. with regards to him, where he was going to stay. And she was just heartbroken as well when she heard about it. And then there was a Miss Carmelina. I talked to her yesterday, I think it was. And a lot of these women, what I found out was many of these ladies were ladies he had never even met them face to face. They just had this really beautiful camaraderie, friendship, where they talked to each other all the time. They was each other's prayer warriors and their sounding board and all of these things. And it was just beautiful. I just loved it. Miss Tish, she was the one that was constantly texting him, Bill, why haven't I heard from you? Are you okay? And I had to return her calls. Everybody that was calling during this time, I had to return their calls. And then I asked him if there was anybody he didn't want to talk to. He told me those people as well. And it was okay. It was okay. And I asked him who he wanted to visit. And honestly, he didn't want anyone to visit him. He let me visit him, his daughter visit him, and his good friend Renee visit him while he was in the hospital. And that was it. He didn't allow anybody else, and that was his wishes. Then there was the goddess Queen Tanya that I talked to, and this sister we talked on this past Sunday. And this sister just blessed my heart and my soul. And she shared with me that they had been friends for a long, 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 long time. I think since high school they had been friends. And that when he went up to D.C. to visit with the family, she was one of the few. And I was so thankful. I was so thankful. Because to my awareness, the only person I knew of that he had gotten together with was our cousin, Lorna. But I found out that he did get together with Tanya. And she shared with me that they had such a great time, that time that they spent together. And she said they hung out for about 2 days, and she wanted him to hang out some more, but she said, I didn't want to be selfish because I knew he had other folks he was trying to see. But she let me know that she is forever and always my sister. And so many of these ladies, the words that they used in regards to how he communicated his relationship with me was the word that came out of each and every one of their mouths was, oh my God, and your brother adored you. I heard that word at least 15 times over this past week. He adored you, and to hear that, and I know it in my heart on certain levels, but to hear it coming from people who are total strangers to me, it just let me know how far his love for me reached. Then there was Renee, who was here, and they spent a lot of time talking and sharing, and they hung out together. I think Bill went to Augusta, and they went out to the river and hung out, and Renee would come to Columbia, and she's a massage therapist, so she would give him some massage therapy on his body because he just was not as mobile as he wanted to be. And then a Miss Angie Reed. And Angie is a friend of our families that have known Bill for a long time. And everybody was just so heartbroken. Everybody was so in disbelief that he's gone. And he's gone too soon for me. But we all got to surrender to the Most High. And so I respectfully do that. So it was requested that we do the Lord's Prayer. And I remember singing the Lord's Prayer at a wedding one time. So I think I'm going to try to do that, y'all. Forgive me if my voice shakes. Our Father, thine art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thine kingdom come, thine will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever and ever and ever. Amen. Amen and amen. Bless y'all. I love y'all. Thank y'all for being here. I believe it's time that we deliver our brother into the hands of the military that he served so graciously, the military that he gave his life and his limbs for him to receive his full military benefits and honorarium for the service that he's given. So we shall see each other at Fort Jackson in a very short few minutes. Thank you so much. I love you. Thank you to my family, all of you, for being here. Ashe and amen.